Welcome back to the Leverage podcast powered by the Next 400 Bound. Next 400 Bound is creating a legacy of wealth and community. And you know the leverage is all about leveraging opportunities so that we can create wealth in the community. One of the things we are focused on is shifting gears from individual ambition to collective prosperity. What does that look like? It looks like I'm getting it, you're getting it, we're creating wealth, but we're sharing resources, we're collaborating on ventures, we're doing business activity together so that collectively we can all become successful, so that we can empower the next generation. Speaking of the next generation, this is why I'm here. You know, I'm OG Gen X, with a 70s mind. I used to have an afro and all of that, but today is all about Gen Z, So we're going to be talking to Gen Z about financial literacy, financial education. We're also going to talk to them about building a wealth mindset. And, it's very important that if we're creating legacies of wealth, we're actually involving the next generation, because eventually we are going to be passing the baton to them, and they'll be responsible to, carrying the torch to the finish line. So in this podcast series, every now and then, we're going to have conversations with a Gen Z or multiple Gen Z guests so that we can fill them out, learn from them. They can also learn from us, and collectively, we'll all get to the main goal of achieving financial collective prosperity. My name is Quaker Q. I'm your host, and I would like to introduce you to my guest today. Her name is Fatima Badamasi, and she's a Gen Z, a proud Gen Z. She's also a student, right, majoring in fintech at NJIT, that is New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
And she has so many aspirations. She's an entrepreneur. She's very highly motivated. And I thought that you would be a good candidate for today's conversation. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, thank you for having me. That was like the best intro I've ever gotten. Hi, I'm Fatima. So I'm 21. So pretty dead center in the middle for Gen Z. I'm a senior in college at NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, majoring in fintech. So I know a little bit about financials, and I know a little bit about computer science. And I think that I could represent Gen Z pretty well when it comes to financial literacy and knowledge. And if anyone have any questions,
well, this is why you're here. We're gonna make it fun and exciting.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna kick it. We're just gonna have a simple conversation about money and financial literacy and so on and so forth. So, when I say financial literacy to you, what does that mean? You remember, you're gonna be talking to me as you, but you're also going to be talking to me as if you're representing your little clique of friends and stuff like that.
So nervous.
No, it doesn't.
But I think financial literacy is pretty much being able, how you manage a dollar. What will you do with the money given to you? You know what I'm saying? If I give you $5 today, how would you allocate those resources so that they can last a long time and be as efficient and effective as possible? Will I invest $2 and save $1 and use another dollar for essentials? Or I think financial literacy also goes into what is your long-term goal for $1. People who lack financial literacy, they'll see that $5 today and say, okay, I want a sandwich that's $4.82 today, so I'm going to get that sandwich. Someone who understands what it means to be financially literate will say, okay, I have $5 and there's a $2 sandwich here, and I may have a bill in a month that's going to be worth another $2, and then that extra dollar I can put it away to savings.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my.
I like the fact that you're using $1, $2, $3.
Because it's easier for us to understand.
Because normally when I talk to people in my peer groups, they're talking
millions, and everyone wants to use the giant
No, that's
millions.
great.
$5 is something that even the brokers.
How did you learn what you just said?
$5 financial literacy?
Yeah, like you explained it. How did you learn this? I don't know. Did you learn it in high school? Did you learn it? Like, how did you come about this?
I think there's multiple ways.
You in person?
Me personally, I think there's multiple ways I've learned it. For one, I want to start off by observing the people around me. Because Gen Z, obviously, we're all really young adults, and we grew up.
Not necessarily. Gen Z ends at 2012.
Yeah, but
So that's not a young adult.
Oh, but the oldest is like 26, 27.
Okay,
so like
sure.
we're between like 26 to like 14.
Okay.
Right? So
okay.
Gen Z, we're kind of new in the game of adulthood,
Right.
or not there yet. So we watched our parents go through like financial crises of 08. So we saw how they managed their money there, and that for one put like a fire under us. Like, oh, I don't want to do that. And
Did it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched my father go through that. That was not fun.
Okay.
And also it's because it's not just like they lost the money today. It's like they're still recouping, so much so to the point when we got old enough to realize where they were financially, started to see.
Did that scare you? Like, did that put fear in you?
It puts
you think
fear
at an
into me
early
now.
age?
At an early age, no. But now that
Okay.
I'm old enough where I can have conversations with my parents and they explain to me what happened, you never want to see that again. And when you're a child, you know something's going on, but you don't know what's going on. But you know you're uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because one year you're going to Disney World every year, and the next year it's like, can we go to the county fair?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Actually, you're right. Because I remember that kind of a thing happening to me. You know, going from having this and having that to not today.
Not today. One day you can have McDonald's every day of the week, and the next week is like, we actually have rice at home. We've been eating rice for 2 days.
You need to learn how to cook.
Yeah. And my parents were never the type of parents to be like on top of us for like learning how to cook, because they were like that. And then one day when she started to be like, you can't fry your own egg, I said, hey, what's going on here?
That's interesting. So I have a question for you. Do you budget?
Yes.
What is budgeting to you? Like, what?
Okay, there's multiple ways I budget. For me, I like my budgeting to be very hands off, right? It's just money that rainy day, and then money that I use today.
Okay, so if I gave you $10 right now, give me an example of how that will fit into your budget. Let's assume it's not a gift.
Yeah.
So you did something. Okay, let's make it a little bit realistic.
Yeah.
You did some work for me right now, and I gave you $100. How would that fit into your budget? How would you treat that $100?
Okay, so I think the first part of budgeting is you have to pay yourself first, or else it's not worth it.
Okay.
So look at that $100 and say, what can I comfortably take out of this? And start small. It could be a 20 out of that 100.
What do you mean by pay yourself?
Something you should
When
always...
you say pay yourself, what do you mean?
To be quite honest...
Are you paying yourself to spend it? Are you paying yourself...
Paying yourself to keep.
To save. You're saying savings, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So paying yourself should be that cash flow, that liquid amount of cash that you should always have. Everyone should have it. It's emergency fund. It could be I need gas fund. It could be I need a coffee fund.
Okay, back to the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
$100.
$100. You changed the subject.
Yeah.
I would put 20 away.
Okay.
To be safe.
Okay.
Then with the other 80, I would look at bills that were coming up if they had any. A lot of Gen Z don't have them, but if you do, you can go by the order of what comes first or what's important. Like if your car note and your rent is due at the same time, say your rent is $30, your car note is $40, whichever comes first, whichever is more important to you.
At some point, you weren't budgeting, right?
No.
So what made you decide to budget? Like what happened?
So I'm 21, right?
Yeah.
But I started working at 16.
Okay.
And I went through a lot of jobs. My first pay was like $20 an hour, and I get paid up to $24 an hour. And I noticed that even with those pay increases, I still felt broke after I got paid.
Okay.
So I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm making almost double what I made last year. How is it possible? I'm still just as broke. And then when I started to budget, I'm like, it's because I'm spending money willy-nilly. Like there should be no reason. I made $500 this time last year, and now I make $1,000, and I still feel like I have that $500.
How did you deal with that change when you started creating a budget? Like, did you use an app? Like, what did you do?
No, I don't.
So
I automated my checks. I automated my checks so that no matter what, $200 goes to my savings account. No matter what. I can put more, I can put less. No, I've never put less. But no matter what, $200 goes to my saving account. Then I also automated it so that $100 in my check every month, it goes to my Roth IRA. So it's very like
organized that way.
So I don't like the apps. I'm not sorry.
So you're doing all of this from one account, like you?
Yeah, I have online banking. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. Can I shout out banks?
Huh? No. You
Ally
can't.
Ally Bank. It's an online bank. It's my favorite bank. If you ever
Why? Why?
They have a high yield savings account. So
What's the interest rate right now? We're in September
yes, it's 4%.
of 2024.
4%.
Huh?
4% on your savings. So
That's more out
I mean,
there.
it's your
Okay.
own cash. If you could get anything back on it, it's better than nothing. Two, it's separate from my regular checking, so I won't spend the money. And they also have Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs in Ally Bank, and it's really easy to set up. They explain it very simply. So like, even I understood it within the first read. Like most people should be able to understand it within the first
What were
read.
your challenges as a young person starting to budget your finances? Because I strongly believe that it's a great habit to form early, because I didn't start budgeting until I was pretty much a full-blown adult, because I definitely didn't come from that environment where, financial literacy to that extent was, taught to me. I kind of had to figure it out myself. But I've been on my own since I was 15 years old, so that's different, a whole different conversation. But what were what were some of the challenges? Like, were you consistent right away because you're disciplined, or speaking to your other Gen Z friends and stuff like that? Do you think a lot of your peers have budgets?
I don't think most Gen Z budget. And it's because we're just so used to instant gratification, you know? Like, why would I put $200 away? No, seriously, why would I put $200 away today when I could use that $200 today? Like, I want my money now.
So if a Gen Z or a young person is watching you today, can you share with us what advantages there are in budgeting that you found in budgeting?
Oh, I could.
Yeah. How has budgeting benefited you?
Besides my car.
Oh yeah, you just bought a nice. Yeah. Tell me about it.
So I got my first car at 17. It was a cash car, and I finally got my dream car, which was a Tesla.
See?
And I budgeted my way
what I'm
through that.
saying?
And
Yes.
it wasn't even so for those who don't know, it's a lease. But it's not even the fact that if I didn't budget correctly, I wouldn't be able to afford the lease.
Absolutely.
Because I would always be like scrambling for the lease payment to catch like this payment of like 400, however much it costs. But if I budget it throughout the month, it takes it directly from the account that has money in it, because I've been budgeting for it for the last year and a half. I don't have
And
to
you
think
had
about
to
it.
also save. So
Save, yeah.
savings is a part of the budgeting process, right?
And credit.
Yeah. So
Credit.
okay, so we'll go into that. So how do you discipline yourself from not touching your savings? Like, because right now I'm trying to figure out, right, how we can empower younger people like yourself who are doing great, and even to influence other younger people to practice, these financial skills earlier, so that they can have more freedom later on in life. So what I'm saying is, when you started saving, putting money aside from your budget to save, how did you discipline yourself in terms of saving?
Actually, you have to make, sometimes for savings, and it might sound a bit extreme, but you have to make getting a hold of that money as difficult as possible for yourself.
So how would you do that, for
You
example?
see how I said that Ally Bank was the bank I used for my savings account? Do you know that my checking account is not with Ally Bank? So if I wanted $20 from my savings, I'd have to wait 4 days.
Oh, okay.
4 business days, I'm sorry.
So it would
be so annoying. At that point,
it
I
will
might as well go
curb
do
your-
DoorDash.
Your random purchases. right? It
Yes,
would just stop
it'd
it.
make you think about that random purchase, because in order for me to get my money from my savings, I had to wait 3-4 business days, and if it was a Saturday, I'm not seeing that money till Wednesday.
Right.
So that's one thing. You have to make it very difficult for yourself to spend that money.
So do you think most of your your peers, do you guys talk about money
Yes.
a lot?
Yes.
I mean, how often?
Quite often. I'm at the age where students are starting to look at moving out, renting, buying, marriage, the
What's
whole
the
nine.
common conversation?
It is expensive.
Yes. Yeah.
It is
Yes.
expensive.
Okay. I'm thinking, if you're young, you're 21, still in college, and you're staying home, my opinion is you should just stay home while you do some of these things like budgeting, savings, and just disciplining yourself around money. Because
Yeah.
right.
I think
But you said money is a big topic. So moving out, what else? What are some of the conversations? They're like, you talk about careers a lot.
careers. I think a lot of people's hope has dwindled a little bit with the current job market and like their job expectations. But I think in careers, people they no longer think. Before someone's like, "Oh, you get a 60K salary," and you
Right.
look at it in the big picture, like, "Oh my God, 60K."
Right.
But my generation, we break it down more like monthly. So we're
You-
like, "Okay, how much is this a month?" And I'm like, "This is $3,000 a month." Okay, how
So,
much is that a week? And then that's more of the conversations we're having is how we break it down.
and then you got student loans.
I don't have student loans. Get a scholarship, kids. But if you did,
Wait, let's go back to that. So you got scholarships.
yeah,
Okay, good for you.
yeah. I also went to community college first. That's helped a lot.
Whoa,
Yeah.
okay, hold on. A lot to unpack. You're moving very fast. Okay,
Sorry.
let's go back to that for a second. We're gonna put the savings on hold.
Yeah.
Let's talk back to, was it a strategic decision between your parents and, for you to go to community college first?
Yes.
And why was that?
I graduated during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I played a lot during the last year of high school because I was at home like the whole time. And my parents were like, they didn't really feel comfortable. They were going to pay for my college, but they didn't really feel comfortable sending me away to a 4-year degree when I just shown that like I was not mature enough to handle being away and doing my schoolwork.
Okay.
Or being not
So they wanted
regulated.
to.
And then one of my counselors said if she goes to community college and because she's had a good track record before and she keeps it going, she can get a scholarship to any 4-year, in-state, outstate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you went to community college. Did you declare a major there?
Yeah,
What was it?
business administration.
Okay. You did really well.
Did really well. I graduated with 3.6.
Oh, congratulations. So then, boom, to
NJIT.
NJIT.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool strategy. I do want to know if you're watching this podcast and you are an educator and you can shed some light on this kind of a strategy. I'm not an expert when it comes to education. So I would like to have a conversation about, because I've been hearing it and passing through my own line of work, my practice as an accountant, where families are bringing up this idea of going to a community college first and then transitioning into a 4-year. I need to understand because I got a 14-year-old, man. So
I will say it does depend on the student. Because a lot of kids are mature enough, but a lot of them aren't. That's why you see a lot of people graduate with debt and in degrees that they hate, because they aren't mature enough to make that decision finally on their own. If I made business administration is a very vague major.
Right.
That's why now, as I'm finishing my 4-year, I'm very specific in what I want to do. But like, it just depends on the student, honestly. Not every kid can do community college, but every kid can't do 4-year. So be honest with yourself and your kids.
All right, you heard it. So back to savings. Not a lot of your peers are saving, you think, as much as, discipline. So what would you say, you being a Gen Z, speaking to your peers, if you had to say something to encourage, hey, you got to save, I always tell my son that, you know what, you're not working right now. He works for me sometimes, little things or whatever. Whatever amount of money you receive, just take 10%. Is the general knowledge that we all have. Just take 10% and keep it in your savings account and do not touch it. When you put it there, don't even think it exists
Pretend
anymore.
you don't have it.
And that's for starters in the simplest form. You'll be amazed how much. Look, if you saved $10 a month for a year, that's $120. Compounded for 10 years, you could do the math. And we're using your numbers, $100.
Yeah, but these small $10, if you forget about it, like you'll check your account in a year or two, and you're like, oh wow, I actually had change in here.
And then the holidays come around, and you get that little envelope. You got $100 in there.
Celebrate Christmas.
I'm just saying holidays, whatever, birthday,
You get a little
whatever.
change. Put it away.
Yeah, put it away because it's how you build that habit of savings, right? So what about invest? Because wait, before we get to investment, I found this. It says Fidelity found that 81% of Gen Zs or Gen Zers, is that how you say it? are already saving for the future, and many believe in investing early. This is the higher percentage than previous generations at the same age. That's phenomenal.
You want me to get into it?
So yeah, investing. What are your perspectives on investing? Your thoughts?
I'm a firm believer that most people aren't educated enough to be a day trader, but I do believe most people are educated enough to open a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Everyone should have a retirement account detached from their jobs. A lot of Gen Z do not want to take the traditional route in terms of like employment. If, like I said earlier, like a lot of us are like going to be entrepreneurs. Because of that, I think we should start early.
Wait, you said a lot of you are planning to be entrepreneurs?
I feel like a lot of the people I speak to, one of the biggest conversations they have is that they don't want to work for anybody.
Is this just for me? Before you even finish saying that, I keep hearing that, but do you think this is just because everybody likes to say that I'm gonna be my own boss? I'm gonna be.
Possibly.
It's just because being an entrepreneur is not cakewalk, man.
I think a lot of Gen Z, I think it's a mix of two things. I don't want to down my generation. It's one, something to do with the fact that we don't like to listen to authority. And it's also looking at the fact that we watch millennials get a lot of empty promises and not a lot of them have been fulfilled,
Example?
Okay. What has been promised to Gen Z and millennials is that you go to school, you do good, graduate 4 years, get a job, buy a house, live into the rainbow, right? Our millennials, our older sisters and brothers, our aunts, they did the 4 year, they got the job. They're still trying to share the same apartments with us. We're looking for roommates, and they're our roommates. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're doing DoorDash, they're doing DoorDash with us. And they got the degree, they followed the step by step. So Gen Z is like these
Do you think it
promises.
matters then what kind of degree? I think that's
Yes.
kind of important.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. I feel like, because I know millennials that are doing great.
I know millennials, but that's like, we can't do
You're
that.
talking about overall.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who are doing phenomenal in life, but then in the same breath, there's a lot more people who are just not happy.
So the idea of entrepreneurship from idea to execution is no joke.
No.
It's very, very important that if you're a young person and you're ambitious and you want to get into business, especially those young kids that had the lemonade stand early or started hustling in school early, it's very important that one thing that you said that I agree with is, you guys are into instant gratification. You want everything now and not going through the process. I myself happen to be on the advisory board of the NJSBDC.
Yeah, Small Business Association.
Right. So I recall in one of our meetings, the conversation was trying to get Gen Zs and the younger people involved. There's so many programs or opportunity out there to learn about, it's free counseling that you can learn about starting a business, the things that you should know about starting a business, how to get funding, how to develop your business credit, how to position yourself to win government contracts and stuff like that. All these things are out there, but your generation, yes.
You remember a few seconds ago when I said Gen Z has a problem with authority? That stems from it too. We've learned what we've learned from business, from social media and YouTube, right? So we don't feel like we should come to the SBA to ask for questions, because chances are, a lot of Gen Z don't want to be told what they're doing wrong, and they'd rather just learn that on their own. Or they just don't want to be told what to do.
Well, so here's what I have to say. So I'm a strong believer in technology and where we are today, right? I believe in AI. I believe in working with all these different AI platforms, ChatGPT, whatever the case might be. Yeah, you can go on there and get some information that can be profound. However, there are certain rules to the game. There are certain things. So, for example, you might have a great idea, right? And you go on YouTube or TikTok, and when I go on TikTok and I see a lot of people presenting financial ways of doing things. Oh, all you got to do. Do you know how many times I have to correct people who've just started a business the wrong way? For example, somebody goes online, they want to open a daycare. So instead of consulting a professional like myself to figure out how to do this, they go online and watch a YouTube video, and they go register an Inc. and start an S corp and does all these things, and then circle back to me to ask me if they did it right. And I say to them, well, why would you do an Inc. for a daycare where you're going to be working with toddlers and children, where your liability is high? You should have registered a LLC so you can limit your liability, because you're working with families and children. You're prone to lawsuits, and if you don't have a limited liability company, your lawsuits will extend to you being the owner of the business and to your house, your property, your bank accounts and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I filed the form 2553 to switch to an S corp. And I said, but why did you do that? Did you know that when you have an S corp, you're supposed to pay yourself a reasonable salary, and it's part of the tax law? And they were like, no. I said, you haven't made $1, so why would you even, extend? And this is because there's a lot of wrong information on social media. So this is what my advice is. If you're a young person, yes, you can get information, but do not disregard professional advice, because it will place you ahead of the game. Because this is what happens: you run, you get to a point, and you realize you did it all wrong, and you have to go back to do it again, because there are systems in place. AI has a disclaimer. If you use ChatGPT, it always tells you at the bottom, consult a professional, get a second opinion. So yes, you don't like authority, but you didn't get here because there was no authority, or there was no formula, or there was no system in place. Systems are what create wealth, right? So you have to follow these systems to get to that place. I know you're looking at me like, yeah, now you sound like my dad.
I wasn't even gonna say that yet. I was gonna disagree with you, but
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I want to hear this.
as someone, I think I just told you about it. Someone who started their business mostly with information gained through the internet. I think I don't know if discernment is the word. I don't know if that's even a word. But I think the ability to know when information is wrong and when information is right. If you, obviously, like the example you just gave, if you just blindly jump into S corp without knowing like all the avenues of business, and you have to start from scratch, to be quite honest, you deserve it. But I think that there's a lot, like, for example, if you wanted to formulate a business today on Zen Business, I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I don't.
You can literally type in the type of business that you want to create, and it will advise you on what avenue you should take,
right,
in terms of like registering this business,
so
how you should go about it. And then it's up to you to do the proper research. Now, you could go pay somebody to help advise you, but they could also be wrong.
True.
I think that's also part of the problem. We don't have a lot of resources.
So here's the thing. You made a point. They can be wrong, but then they have accountability. So here's the thing. If I go through an app or a website to do an automated workflow to create a business or do whatever, if I get it wrong, chances are I pay them already. They're not going to refund me. They're going to tell you all the information was there for you to follow, through. But if you went to a professional and got the advice and they gave you the wrong advice, they have an accountability. They have a fiduciary duty to refund your money back to you for you to start all over again. Remember this: time, you can't get time back when you've wasted it. So I say all of this to say, yeah, get all your quick, fast information online and do all that stuff is great, right? I like information technology. I'm down with that. I use AI all the time in my business for all kinds of workflows.
I know.
Yeah, but I also do use it efficiently because I'm a professional and I have credentials. I know what I'm looking for. So when AI gets us wrong, I can correct it. I can give you several times where I've used AI to do financial statements and they had it wrong and I had to correct it. And the only way I knew it was wrong was because I knew what I
The
was
knowledge,
doing.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay, then
So
in that case, I'll agree to disagree. Um,
yeah.
I'll agree to disagree on that one. I think it depends. I'm
Okay.
gonna leave it at it
Well,
depends.
back to the subject. Are Gen Zs investing? A lot. I know this says 81% are already saving for the future. I know you mentioned IRAs. I think those things. Okay, here's a tip. As boring as it sounds, if you want to know, there's certain websites that are credible. I don't want to co-sign anything, but you should do your research and look for credible websites that can give you really, really good information on investing and stuff like that. If you want to, one thing that people should do at a young age, when you guys are investing, always think of the tax implications, because anytime you have gains on your investment, there's something called a capital gains tax. Always think about which strategies that you're going to implement in your investment portfolio to save on taxes, because taxes are always going to be standing there at the end waiting for you when you
With the
when you
horn.
yes, when you've sold everything on Shopify and you made $100,000 and you're 22
Ooh.
years old and you're like, yeah, we just made $100,000
Yeah,
on the
come pay these
business,
taxes.
and then Uncle Sam is standing right there like, okay, wait a minute. You can't tell him, oh, I didn't know. You still
Yeah,
gotta pay.
ignorance to the law is not an excuse. Unfortunately, I wish it was.
So here's my advice. Every state has an SBA, Small Business Administration, access. And every county within each state has a division. And through these small business development centers, you can get free counseling. It's
Now, if
free.
it's free,
Yeah.
that's something I recommend that you do.
So
Paying.
as a counselor for Essex County myself, I get referred to businesses get referred to the center, and I'm assigned, and they'll come on. They spend 4 or 5 hours getting free knowledge. So it's best to take advantage of some of these free things that the government, we paying taxes for this. So my advice is, go out there, do research, join the SBDC in your county, and get some free knowledge. So at least if you're using AI and the internet and TikTok and stuff to get information, you have somebody to vet it out for you for free, and then you're off on your own. Now, if you have any thoughts in your mind, let me hear you.
You kind of shut me up.
How?
Because my whole art thing was that we also lack the resources to go to counseling. But if you said it's free, I don't really see an excuse
Yeah, it's
for not
free.
going. But
Look
if
at
it's not free,
Look into your local as small business administration and look for small business development centers in your county and sign up. It says sign up, enroll, and you get a lot of free counseling, and some certain things you can join webinars. Some are free, some will cost you $20, $30, but it's worth it. You get free knowledge. And not just that, you get to network.
yeah, that's
Networking is very important. You get to know an accountant like myself
Oh,
for
God.
free. And then guess what? You're building a relationship, right? So I think, this is good information. You should use it. I do want to ask you something about, so in terms of investments, like what kind of investments do you see your peers getting into?
when I see them doing a lot, which I don't know if I like yet, maybe purely out of ignorance for the topic, is crypto. I know a lot of my peers are into crypto heavily. They're into foreign exchange trading. It's not a new idea, but it's a more popular idea. We left the more like standard forms of investing to our parents.
No
And
stocks? No stocks?
people
Index
do
funds?
people do invest in stocks. I do see that often, but I do see crypto being more popular, at least in the moment, with the younger generation. I think it's because it's a little bit more engaging. Stocks. When you think of stocks, you think of like this man on Wall Street with a suit. It's very boring. Gen Z is very, remember, instant gratification,
Well-
short attention span.
Well, I mean, I guess then you need to invent like TikTok, invent something tech wise and get your money fast. However, this is what I believe, and it's definitely not a financial advice. I don't give financial advice on this platform, but I do believe that creating a wealth mindset involves being involved in one of these things, right? It's either you're investing in stocks, you're investing in real estate, you're doing some form of online business, Shopify, something of that sort, or you're doing a, a brick and mortar, like a restaurant, a laundromat, stuff like that, right? So if you're going, if you're going into wealth creation over a long period of time, even if you're a career pathed person like yourself, going into the corporate world, right? You should somehow spread your wings and dibble and dabble in one of these things, because that's one of the ways to build wealth.
You know what? I agree with you, but two of those things will be very hard for Gen Z to do, at least in the moment.
Right.
And that's real estate and brick and mortar. The other two are very easy to start up. Shopify, you can drop ship, and you can never own any type of inventory and have it started in 2 weeks if you wanted to.
Okay, if I told you that with good credit, a great business plan with a great idea, and information that you can get from an expert,
like yourself,
yeah, you can actually get capital to bring your idea to an execution, bring your idea to reality.
Can I cut in? I don't know if you remember this conversation we had, and it's how Gen Z is afraid of
Debt.
debt.
Well, that's it. Hey,
And for us to be the generation with the most credit card debt, it's scary. But we are afraid of debt in the sense that I can ask somebody if they have a credit card, they have a credit card.
So I'm going to tell you something, right? We live in United States of America.
Yep. Everything's credit.
But do you believe that even the country that we live in is in debt?
To ourselves, though, right?
America is in debt, right?
Yeah.
It has a debt. Trillions of dollars in debt,
But
right?
the thing about it
so
is...
here's what I'm saying. If you live in a country that's in debt, and if the country itself functions on debt, I mean, as an economy, because we're in debt. If the country was debt free, then it will make sense for me to sit here and say, well, you should be afraid of debt. The country itself is operated on debt. It's not about, to me, anything that, for example, if you say fear, then basically you're already losing. I don't believe in fear. I believe that people should have information and knowledge about debt management, because you see all these high rises and all these buildings going on. It's all based on debt. Nobody's spending their money, hard earned cash to build a skyscraper. You understand what I'm saying? You have to understand how the system works, so that, look, mortgage. How many people do you see here own their houses outright?
Outright?
How many?
I know probably
we
one
could do
person.
a research.
One person.
I mean, eventually. I
One
just said how
person.
many people.
And everyone in my family is a homeowner, but I only know one person who has it, but they're still paying property taxes. So you'll never.
Well, forget about the taxes. Taxes are inevitable. But I'm talking about most people in this country.
They don't own their house.
They don't own their house.
Right.
So it means that you have to figure out a way to use debt to your advantage. So yeah, if you're listening, you're Gen Z, go do your research. Not on TikTok. She'll tell you to go do it on TikTok.
I will
definitely
not.
me.
I'm very pro education.
Once again, look for free counseling services from your local government, your local SBA. Join. Get involved. Figure out. Get information. So, because I know 22-year-olds that have successful businesses because they followed a certain system.
I still think we're a bit apprehensive to debt, though.
That's
a lot of Gen Z can't justify taking out a loan for a mortgage in their own eyes, or taking out, especially if a rent is cheaper than a mortgage, or they can't even justify like taking out a loan. Because then here's the thought process, right? I want to start a cafe. I have a wonderful business idea. It's going to cost me 40 grand to open it. But what if I don't make the 40 grand back? Then I have to pay it back. What if I owe the money? Then what happens? Now I lost everything. That's where the fear comes from. But then it's all lack of knowledge.
But this is why you have a business plan. So when you have a business plan, there's a section of a business plan where you state your key milestones, right? Your milestones. Your plan should have financial projections, and your plan should also do market research. So I'm going to open a cafe. Wow, where am I going to open it, and how does this type of business perform? How does it perform in this area that I want to open this type of? You have to do background research so that your plan gives you action steps that will probably, more than likely, make you more successful. The idea of being afraid is always going to if you're saying to me, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs and be business people and blah, 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 and a lot of people are afraid of debt, then it's going to be a lot of grand opening, grand closing, because, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, because this is America, and you need to, most businesses you see, let me give you a reality. There are a lot of businesses, right? A lot of professional service businesses, like doctors' offices, lawyers' offices and stuff that they stay open. They're successful. You see them, they look successful. They stay open because at the beginning of the year, they take out a line of credit, right, from the bank, and they use it to pay their staff. They use it to run their business as they're going to court, winning cases, or as they treat patients waiting for Medicaid to send them insurance companies to. Because you go to your doctor's office today, you sign off and you leave, you give them the insurance card, they're not getting paid today. They have to bill.
A month from
Right. So how do you think they're functioning? They go get a line of credit to maintain their business as the business. So you have to understand how these systems work, or else you're gonna go out of business. And why would you wanna, and look, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure several people have different opinions on how these things are done. But what I'm saying is, if you're gonna save 40,000 at 22 years old to start your cafe, by the time you get that 40,000, probably cafes are dead. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
How long is it going to take you
True. I do think
save your
there
own
should
money?
be an equal balance of cash and debt.
Yeah, so
don't go there completely empty-handed. Don't go to the bank with no dollars saved.
Back to budgeting.
And saving.
Back to saving. Back to investing. Because if you're budgeting, saving, investing, and you prepare yourself properly with a good business plan, and you go to the bank, your business plan says, hey, you know what? On my team, I have an accountant or even a financial advisor.
Right.
And the bank takes you seriously right away. They're like, oh, okay. Not that you hired them, but you work with them.
I have one.
Yeah, you have one to give me. So you put it in there to give me advice on
financial literacy.
They're like, oh, great. And then you list their name and their credentials. This one, so a CPA. They're like, oh, wow, that's great. So there are things to do to leverage.
Insert name of the podcast.
Yes. So, wow, this is a fun conversation. I like to. There's more to unpack with talking about this.
We didn't even get into credit.
Huh?
We didn't even get into credit.
No, that's a whole different.
It's a whole different episode. Will I be back for that? Hopefully.
Yeah, along with maybe one or two other.
21-year-olds.
So I can get somebody else to debate you instead of me. Here's a very important question. Mm-hmm. Here at the Leverage, like I said before, we're big on the shift from individual ambition to collective prosperity. The Leverage powered by Next 400, and Next 400 came about because we thought about 400 years of slavery and the accomplishment. And for those who don't know, black people were sold for economic gain a little over 400 years ago. And so the vision of Next 400 is to empower black communities across the globe for the next 400. So in the year 2419, yeah, it's forever. But for
Clever.
huh?
That's like a very clever name.
Yeah, so the year will be 2419, which will mark exactly 400 years from the first 400 years. So that will be 800 years since the first slaves arrived here. So what will life be like for black people all over the world? And one of the things that I've witnessed or I've experienced is growing up, like I said, I'm Gen X, right? Growing up, we will have a whole lot of great ideas, we will have brilliant ideas, but have no way of starting it. Or you go to the bank, you're shut down. We didn't have information on credit, on how to get financing or how to even get that idea going. So for example, I had ideas such as you see with TurboTax. If anybody who knows me knows that I had I'm not saying they took my idea. Let's not get it.
Let's
But
not get a lawsuit, but
yeah, no, I'm saying I had that concept long before I started seeing what they were doing. As a young kid, like, what?
didn't have resources or
I didn't have I actually put a business plan together at that age, and guess what? The people who I went to help me to even put together, what do you call that? You're the fintech,
app,
but you do something first, like to just get an idea
the
of the app.
layout, the layout, the one I showed you.
No, it's something else. But anyway, like
Okay.
whatever it was going to cost. This is years
Blueprint,
ago.
skillet,
Whatever
skeleton.
it is, it
Okay.
was going to cost like at the time 250 to 300K. And remember, I told you I've been on my own since I was 16. So if you think hard about it, it's like right then and then I just shut it down. Like, I'm not going to do this idea anymore. But back to the point, my vision for next 400 is that 400 years, definitely way before that from now,
Next 50 years.
yes, we'll have, if my generation does it right to finish it off, for the millennials do what they got to do to finish it off, you guys do what you do for Alpha, is that what they call themselves?
Gen Alpha.
Yeah, so
The
then
10-year-olds.
yeah, so 2419, I won't be here, but you know what? My ghost will be all around just watching, just to say that you too can wake up in the morning and say, I have this great idea and I can call this person and that person and that person and we can make it happen. And so that's the vision. When I say collective wealth creation, we won't get there if everybody has only individual ambition. If I was just doing me and doing me, I have a couple of businesses, I'm okay, right? I never believed in the idea that I can just work hard and do it by myself and provide for my family and we're good and, live in a nice home and then watch people in my community go through struggle, right? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
We're both African, right? And whenever I go back home, I feel like I see that. I have uncles, and whenever I go, my family, my specific family, we're doing very well. And then the entire neighborhood around us, abject poverty.
Right.
So how do you have this 3-story, 4-story house, dead center in the middle? It's like this individualist mindset is probably the reason this whole community isn't thriving.
And that's the reason why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So even though we are empowering each other through financial literacy and education and all of that, the main message is to create collective wealth. And what does that mean to me is when individually we do more to bring ourselves up to par in terms of financial education, we can now network better,
Right.
collaborate on resources. For example, hey, you have great credit, I have good savings, but my credit is so. Let's collaborate on this project so that we can get that cafe for 40K. And you know what? Let's call this lawyer that we know within our community that
Just back us up.
understands what we're doing, because even if we can't afford them, they'll cut us a deal or, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? What do you think about collective wealth creation?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I was speaking to it, I think, in our specific community, and I'm thinking more specific Africans, but African Americans also. If you see other communities, right, Latinos come to this country, and you see they all live in one house together, and they all work under one company, and they'll work hard. They all make money, they disperse, and they keep it going. We come here. We're very like, I want to make $100,000, and I'm not sharing. I don't want to help nobody. It's not necessarily that we have to share, but if you know how to get a job, why can't you help the next person figure out how to put that job on? If you have a business idea, if you want to open a cafe, let's go back to the cafe. Instead of you outsourcing and going to hire some kid from 3 stories over, you have a 16-year-old kid that needs a job.
Exactly.
Put them let them work for you, and then they can upgrade to manager, or you can teach them the routes of business, and then they can open their own business. So we can all work together instead of like, we like to be stingy with our resources, whether that's financial or knowledge. And
that's the problem I have, is it set us back, and each one teach one, and that's the whole point of the Leverage podcast, to be the mouthpiece for Next 400 movement. You can join the movement if you're interested by following us on Facebook. If you like this podcast and you want to contribute, hit the like button, subscribe, kick it with us, be a part of the movement, bring your ideas to the table. I would like to collaborate. I'm down to give free suggestions, on certain things that matter. Let's build something together and create this opportunity that will create legacies while we're here and for generations to come. Now, thank you for...
Oh my God, this was so much fun.
This was fun, right? Yeah.
Can I shout out my...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so follow Buffit, BUPHFIT on Instagram, and also follow me, Fatima, on Instagram for more financial tips and knowledge. And I think that was it. That was really fun. Guys, start investing and saving.
Thank you. Shout out to
the kids, the wife, the husband. Shout out to everybody. Like you're a rapper. You started off with a bar, continue going.
Generation X with a 70s
Oh my
mind.
God.
That boy after put on tight pants and pop you for mine. Don't play me, young blood. I got my
Yo, I told him not to rap, and he did it anyway.
Yeah. So thank you for joining this podcast. If you're watching and you like what we're doing and you have ideas to contribute so that we can collectively build wealth and prosperity in our communities, you can hit us up, send us a message, email us, and you like and subscribe and get down with us. Lastly, I do want to say that one of the important things that we are doing is bridging the gap between all Black communities. I encourage all Black people, all African Americans and African descents to look at investing in Africa. Look at investing in places like Ghana, where I know very well there are investment opportunities that are worth looking into. And that's a whole different podcast where we get the experts from those regions in the world to talk about the lucrative opportunities that sit and await us all. Thank you once again. Until the next time, that beat that's about to play, you already know.
Please don't let him rap again.
Your boy did that beat. I'm going to rap on that.